They may be the smallest team on the MotoGP grid, but they do have one thing figured out that a lot of teams don't, and that's how to win. Welcome back to another episode of 2025 MotoGP Midterm Report Cards, and today we're talking about Gresini Ducati. Yes, the smallest budgeted team on the MotoGP grid. But before we dig in, if you could please like, follow, share, subscribe, mash all the buttons so you get all the MotoGP content you can handle. And a fun little fact, I usually reply to every single comment. That's what we're here to talk about MotoGP, so come along and talk with us. Okay, let's dig in. Gresini Racing Ducati, Alex Marquez, the rookie, Fermin, Aldeguer, where do they stack up? And let's start with Alex Marquez. His best season on record. I don't think anyone is going to fry me in a frying pan of burning oil for saying that. It's not really all that controversial. We've never seen Alex be so consistently on the podium, nipping at the heels of Marc Marquez, being the second best rider in the championship. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year? Yes, the Ducati's strong, but there are 6 Ducatis. There are 2 factory Ducatis that have better, quote-unquote, better machinery than Alex Marquez in Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez. Fabio Di Giannantonio on the latest spec. Franco Morbidelli, he's a race winner. This is not a bunch of slouches just on a good bike. So we can't really expect Marc Marquez's little brother, Alex Marquez, to automatically be second just because he's also riding a Ducati. But it seems like there's a difference this year. He's captain second place in nearly every sprint. He got his big win this year. What was that, in Jerez he got the big win? Or was it Aragon? Jerez he got the big win. So he is doing things on the bike this year that he really hasn't been able to do. Let's just go through the numbers. I mean, he's racking up the hardware. His best year by far. Second place in a ton of races. Second place in a ton of sprints. And yes, that win. But he never has really felt like a title contender against Marc. Yes, he's led in the points a couple times due to Marc Marquez's mistakes. But in races, this has a different feeling than Marquez versus Rossi, Marquez versus Davi, Marquez versus Pedrosa or Lorenzo. It doesn't really feel... It feels, let me just put it this way, it feels like when Marc Marquez is running at the sharp end, he's running first through third, it's just inevitable that he's going to win the race. That's just how it feels. It doesn't feel like Alex has the firepower to fight back like we've seen Davi do in Qatar and other tracks where Marc maybe is a little less weak. Now, I will not buy into the theory that was out there in internet land that this is because he's afraid to pass his brother, he's afraid to fight with his brother. These two have been fighting and passing and rubbing elbows since they were children. That is not the case. There's nothing that says Alex Marquez is letting Marc win, is letting Marc off easy by not going for passes. And we've seen proof of this because when other people get behind Marc Marquez, they can't pass him either. We see hard-fought battles with him in Pecco at the beginning of races and other folks. We've seen Viñales lead races. We've seen Morbidelli lead races. Once Marc gets to the front, the only way you're going back to the front for a majority of that race is if Marc lets you by because of tire pressure. So I don't think we can criticize Alex unfairly by saying, well, he doesn't fight because he is going easy on Marc. No, he doesn't fight because Marc is very, very good. So I will say this, I'm a big fan of Alex Marquez this year. I've been a fan of him since he's been in the paddock. He's the underrated Marquez. You kind of want to cheer for him a little bit. It seems like, yes, I said earlier, he has a bit of maturity this season, but also there's the bad that comes with the good. And Alex Marquez sometimes just can't help himself but pull an Alex. Now, what do I mean by pull an Alex? Well, to pull an Alex is to make a move that's a little bit boneheaded. A little too ambitious, a little too aggressive, going too deep on the brakes and having to thread through traffic to make sure you don't wipe anyone else out, or maybe you do wipe someone else out. I think back to a Casey Stoner quote when he was talking to Valentino Rossi, and I apply it to Alex Marquez a lot. Sometimes his ambition outweighs his talent. And we've seen that a couple times this year, notably in Qatar, where at the beginning of the race, he was trying to be too aggressive, trying to make a move, pushes Fabio Di Giannantonio off of the track, also takes himself out of the fight for the podium, and he has to settle, I think he had to settle for 6th place in that race. Then we see the contact between him and Pedro Acosta. Was that his fault? No, but a lot of times he's fighting for a position and not leaving room where maybe he should just leave a little bit of elbow room so that he can finish the race and still be competing toward the front. And then, of course, we have Brno, the crash with Joan Mir. You can understand how upset Joan Mir was with that because the pass was made at a place it shouldn't have been made at. Alex was never going to make that stick, loses the front, takes them both out. And for Mir, who was on the floor all the freaking time, he was finally running good, finally running toward the front where everyone says, hey, man, if you don't want to get caught up in the crap, you need to be running in the top 5 and 6. He was, but he had an Alex done to him. So for it to be a perfect season for Alex Marquez, I really feel he has to eliminate those types of over-ambitious, I think they're even more mental mistakes than they are just bad riding. I think he needs to show patience when patience is needed, and he needs to show aggression when it makes sense to show aggression, not just because he's trying to fight through, trying to keep pace with the rest of the pack and make some sort of boneheaded move. So that's the detracting part of the Alex Marquez saga. Where is he compared to my expectations? He's above expectations this year by far. I did not expect him to be the second best Ducati, especially the first best on the 2024 machine. I did not expect him to necessarily win races this year or be on the podium so much. I don't think anyone really expected that, far above my expectations. But like I said, there's still those moments where you go, oh, Alex, I sometimes wish you weren't on my fantasy team. I can't be comfortable on a Sunday. I just can't. I'm white knuckling it on a Sunday to make sure that you finish. Most of the time he's finished. So let's go to his teammate, Fermin Aldeguer, the rookie, currently sitting in 10th place in the standings. Top 10 for a rookie, pretty darn good. Sitting right behind Fabio Quartararo and a whole heap of points in front of 11th place Maverick Viñales. He's looked really, really strong at times. Has run through it 5th in Germany, 6th in Aragon, 8th in Silverstone, 5th in Qatar, and 3rd in France. In one of the trickiest races we've had all season with the wet to dry, dry to wet, people crashing. He stayed on the bike. He stayed right there in contention, got the podium. Pretty freaking impressive for a rookie. Now, he did have a slow start to the season. He only scored 3 points in the opening 3 rounds, and everyone was talking about Aldeguer. Let's face the music. I mean, with I's first round, even that Qatar podium for Fermin Aldeguer kind of went under the radar because people were still kind of wondering if he was for real yet. He hadn't really scored any points, hadn't wowed anybody. He gets on that podium, and he kind of has been consistently there, around the top 10, top 12 most weeks. He does have a couple of DNFs, but you expect that from a rookie as they're learning. I mean, all the rookies are going to have DNFs. They're all not going to finish races, and they're all at some point going to finish outside the points. But you have to say that Fermin is doing what he's supposed to do as a rookie. Barring some late heroics from Aldeguer, Fermin will win Rookie of the Year. And that goes to expectations. I think that's what we all expected. He is on the best bike out of all the rookies. So he should be finishing in front of not only the rookies, but a lot of the veterans as well. I mean, when you look at where he should be, right? You take where the Ducati veterans are versus the veterans on the other machines. So you have your Marc Marquez, your Alex Marquez, your Pecco Bagnaia, and where do they stack up against the Pedro Acostas, the Fabio Quartararos, people like that. And then you have to measure that gap and see if Fermin is able to keep that gap with the rookies. And he kind of is. He's enough ahead of those of I and obviously Chandra, who's only scored a single point. So he is kind of holding station where he should be. And 10th isn't too bad, but the thing I really wanted to see with him be kind of the top independent rider on a Ducati. I mean, okay, let me say this in a better way. There are independent teams. Only one of them rides Ducati. If you're an independent Ducati rider, I expect you to be above the independent Honda rider, the independent Yamaha rider, the independent KTM rider. And the fact that he is behind Johan Zarco in the points, maybe a little disappointing. Now, yes, Johan, amazing result in France with that win, has shown really, really good speed, and the Honda is getting better. But I wanted Fermin Aldeguer to be just a couple places more forward. I was thinking maybe 8th to 10th in the standings. I did expect him to be the 6th Ducati, which he is. But I kind of expected him 8 to 10, so he's kind of on the low end of my expectations for him. But still, a phenomenal first half of the season, and I only really expect him to get stronger as he learns MotoGP, learns racecraft in this class. I think we have a good future for young Fermin Aldeguer if he can stay on a bike that suits him. So then let's move over to the team. Gresini Ducati is as solid as they come. Like I said, one of the smallest teams on the grid, and let's just not write them off because, well, of course they're great. They have the Marquezes. Yes, they enticed Alex Marquez to come over and sign a contract. They got Marc Marquez over there for a season. Yes, they had the Marquezes. That is not the end of the story. They were fast before the Marquezes. I didn't stutter. Enea Bastianini has won on the Gresini Ducati. They were the smallest team then. They're not supposed to win. Fabio Di Giannantonio, after a rookie season that was nowhere, gets a new crew chief in there, starts to go forward on the bike, gets a win racing for Gresini Ducati. They're not supposed to win races. They're the smallest team on the grid. They know what they're doing. They got the right crew chiefs, the right people in place, management, everything over there just kind of works. So I don't think those who are saying, well, they're a good team because the last name of Marquez. I call bullshit. It's not how it's run. That's not the reality. They've been competitive. And I think they're going to continue to be competitive. They're going to find the right riders for their bikes, especially since they're with Ducati. So that is the caveat. If you want to use the caveat, well, they're an independent team that has a Ducati. Of course they should be good. The Ducati is the best bike on the grid. Well, yes, they do, but they're also beating the other team. The other independent Ducati team of VR46, who I would kind of expect with Frankie Morbidelli, who's won races, with Fabio Di Giannantonio on the latest spec bike, you would expect VR46 to be in that slot above Gresini Racing. They're not. Gresini's there instead, with a rookie on the roster. Yes, Alex Marquez, blowing the barn doors off of the paddock this year, an amazing job, but they also have a rookie. It takes two teams. It takes two riders to make the team go. Both these guys are scoring points, being consistent, being good on the motorcycle. So hats off to the team. And if you think I loved Hervé Poncharal, I went too overboard with my love for him, the Tech 3 boss, we haven't talked about Nadia yet. I mean, Nadia? Oh, take a back seat, Hervé. That's just how it works. She's the best owner in the business. I mean, what's better than a post-race, like, Nadia dance with the Marquez brothers? Like, I mean, okay, I'll stop. Anyway, let's get to the grades because you're probably sick of me yakking on and on already. Grade for Alex Marquez, I'm going to give him an A-. It's so close to an A. It's not an A+. I would like to see more wins out of him. He's right there with the right equipment. The minus is just the pulling the Alex. He's in clear A category, exactly where we want him to be. Versus expectations, fantastic, fantastic season. Congrats, Alex Marquez. Across the garage with Fermin Aldeguer, I also give him an A-. Now, I think that it would have been a B+, but that podium in France and a couple other results that were pretty decent moved that from a B+ to an A-. I think he's doing a terrific job. Again, on the lower end of my expectations, 8th to 10th. He's sitting 10th, but a really phenomenal rookie season. And I could see that easily going up to an A or if not an A+ in the back half of the season if he starts reeling off some really good results. And the team, overall, the team A+. Smallest budget, great job, and Nadia. Enough said. All right, that goes through all of the independent teams now, right? So we're on to the factory boys in the next video. Please stick around as we go through all of the manufacturers and see who's really making the grade and who's not. And we're going to be pretty brutal, I think, with some of these factory teams because they're the ones who are supposed to be winning. Playtime's over. Independent playtime's over. Time for the real stuff. We'll see you next time.